24/7, 365. The fantasy season never dies. Welcome to Every Day is Draft Day. Presented by Champions Round.
Happy hump day, everyone. Every Day is Draft Day is back. We had a little hiatus last week, but we are back and we are ready to answer your Week 9 mailbag questions. My co-host, Eagle Dan FF, is here with a fresh new haircut. Dan, how are you doing?
Great. Thank you for noticing.
Yes, you look very lovely. Probably will give you some extra brain power to answer these questions. There's a few very good ones. Where I can't believe it's Week 9. Can you believe it's Week 9?
I cannot. No, it seemed like just yesterday it was Week 1.
It's very weird. A lot of weird fantasy stuff going on.
Goes by in a blur.
It is a blur. All right, before we jump into it, remember you guys can download the Champions Round app, Daily Dozen, every single day. Chance to win $1,200. And this month, we are giving away a Joe Burrow signed mini helmet. Whoever has the most points is at the top of the leaderboard at the end of November wins. Quite simple. Dan, let's jump right into these questions, starting with the first one at Be More Trevor. He asks, who would you rather stream at QB this week? Dak is on bye. I grabbed Fields just to have someone. Should I stick with him? The options on waiver are probably what you would expect and what they look like in most redraft leagues, looking at guys like Goff, Mariota, Dalton, Mac Jones, Heineke. At this point in the season, Fields isn't just someone. Look at me. I'm going and answering first before I ask your opinion. So weeks 1 through 4, he was averaging like 10 points per game, nothing impressive, sitting at QB 33. But these past 3 weeks, averaging over 21 points per game, and he's QB 6. So this week, totally safe to do. Miami is also a team that is allowing a shitload of points to QBs, 7th most in the league right now as far as fantasy points go. I'm rolling with Chicago. Still, that O-line makes me very nervous. But if you are, filling in a spot right now, I think he's a perfect guy to play this week.
Yeah, I completely agree. All the rest of the options are they are meh. And Fields has proven over the last couple of weeks that he is turning into a fantasy superstar at QB. He's facing Miami defense that's 26 in points allowed against fantasy QBs, so that's a great matchup for him. So I definitely, agree with everything you said. I think you should just roll with Fields. Don't overcomplicate it, and he's going to get you at least. He seems to have a floor of at least 15 fantasy points with his rushing and receiving, and we'll see how much time, if any, that Chase Claypool gets in the offense. Maybe they have a package of plays for him, so he might get a few deep bombs, and if one of those connects, that's a helping of points as we're heading into Thanksgiving season for Fields. So definitely go with Fields.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. I think there's some questions later on about some of the fantasy impact. I know you guys did a bunch of videos yesterday, and it's interesting. I'm wondering if Mooney actually benefits a little bit more. I still don't think that the Bears are going to move away from doing most of their work on the ground. I think that probably will stay as is, regardless of who they add. But again, I think Fields the rest of the season, and depending on the matchup, is honestly someone that he's almost become a must start, or he is a must start, I should say, from what we've seen these past 3 weeks.
Yeah, absolutely.
So let's get to the next question at Ladarius_Brown. Awesome follow on Twitter. Should Coach Frank be on the hot seat in Indy? My very short answer is absolutely yes. I will let you take over from here.
So I agree with your very short answer. It is yes. He's 3-4 and 1 this year. The team isn't really going anywhere. He has no long-term answer at quarterback. Jonathan Taylor is hurt. The offensive line has fallen off greatly since they were considered one of the best, if not the best, offensive lines in the league, not even 2-3 years ago. So it's really trending in the wrong direction in all facets of the game for the Colts and for Frank Reich. I feel like if they don't turn around at least a little bit this year, he should be someone that looks to be replaced. Yeah.
Ironically, they are very very similar to the Commanders, who they sent Carson Wentz to, in the fact that they always find themselves a quarterback away, and then they manage to just like totally fucking blow it, and then they put themselves back in this situation. It's like a cycle that they're in. I think Frank is going to have no problem getting another job. He is a good coach. He's proven to be so, but at this point, what do? We're now on, you went Carson Wentz, Matt Ryan. I mean, like, you guys have to figure it out at some point. And unfortunately, that might come from just changing things up with the coaches. So I think he is in the hot seat. I think that, again, there is a lot of teams in this league that would love to have a roster that looks like this, and you haven't been able to totally perform. Also, Matt Ryan was definitely disappointing. He is at the end of his career, but you expected a little bit more of him. You did not get that. The O-line too is obviously a big piece of that. They are really disappointing overall around the horns. So we'll jump into the next question. I kind of sent you, this was a graphic, so it's not going to come out as pretty as it was an easier question before. All right.
Right.
So at the Dom Griffin asks, I need to pick up someone at flex. It's a crapshoot. Saquon on bye and Irv Smith on IR. I'm not going to run through all the names that were available. Most of us know on waivers what they look like. The top names here are looking like Woods, Claypool, Gage, Jones, Hollins, Marvin Jones, blah, 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 blah. And then a bunch of running backs that don't entirely matter. So I want to start this off by saying that if this is redraft, you can drop Irv Smith. Like, he is not serving you purpose. He's going to be injured. Who knows when he's coming back? The Vikings just trade for Hawkinson. Like, don't even waste, pick up two of these guys. Like, get rid of Irv and then pick up two people. Like, don't even waste your time. Don't bother. He's not worth it. He's not worth an IR spot. I'm torn on who I recommend. I want to say I was leaning Woods on this one because they are playing KC. KC does not do well against wide receivers. They're allowing their most points somewhere around 34, not 30. It was like 34 something per game. I'm not ready to be like, yeah, play Claypool. We have to still see. They're not a functional offense yet. We don't know what that's going to do. It might benefit Mooney more than it benefits Claypool. I think that obviously Fields gets a little bit of an upgrade because he's getting an extra player there. It's so funny though. I was thinking the other day how everyone's like opinion shifted so quickly from Mooney is a wide receiver 1 to Fields is struggling and needs a wide receiver 1. I'm like, I get it. I low-key get it. But before the season started, everyone was so convinced that Mooney was wide receiver 1. So, I'm over the Bucks. Any Bucks player, I don't really give a shit right now. Tom, it's not going well over there. Their offense does not look good. I don't feel comfortable telling you that you can pick up any player there that has been hurt. You can't pick up Gage. We don't know what the deal is. And then, Rashad White hasn't really done shit this year either. So Huntley would probably be my next one that I would consider going to, only because the Chargers' run D is so bad. And Falcons are just running the ball. That's all they're doing. So is there a chance that he ends up having a pretty big week? Yeah, I think so. So he's had my attention in a couple weeks. I personally picked him up, but just more of like a bench spot. I think I would start Woods, though. What about you?
I'm going to go in a different direction. I'm going to start Huntley, actually.
Okay, cool.
I think,
all right.
Yeah, you touched on it a little bit. He has a really good matchup. The Chargers are 30th in fantasy points allowed to running backs. He's getting a lot of work. Not much in the passing game. That's going to Tower Algier. But still, Atlanta seems determined to destroy the value of Drake London and Kyle Pitts and continue to run the ball no matter what. So I would go. He has a good matchup, and they're giving him carries. So I would, in the group of players that we had to work with, I would go with Huntley.
Yeah. I am definitely with you on that. It depends which way you want to play it. Woods is maybe a little bit safer in my opinion, but Huntley definitely, I think, has a very high ceiling this week given his matchup, which is hilarious because we thought the Chargers D, run D, was going to be a little bit better. I don't know what they're going on. I'm getting close to being over the Chargers as well. One question in the chat that we'll get to before we continue. Pick one to start in my Superflex PPR, Jamal Williams, Winston, or Heineke. I would have to drop Jimmy G for either of the QBs. Do we know if Winston's is he starting? It seems like they've been rolling with Andy.
Dalton is starting.
Yeah, so don't worry about that. You can go. What do you think here? Because I have an opinion, but I'll let you go first.
Okay. So for this, excuse me. See, for Superflex, I would always go with the QB over any position player. It's really about, do you trust Heineke to outperform Jimmy G? Do you have to drop them? I would go with Heineke here. I think that they're have a good matchup in Minnesota, which is 2030 with against QBs in fantasy with points allowed. And he seems to have, he had a really good, game-winning throw last game to McLaurin. So that should give him some good momentum going into this week. And it really seems that it's really like Heineke and Jimmy G are basically the same guy to me, in my opinion. I mean, Jimmy G might have better weapons, but he still want to run the ball in San Francisco. And McCaffrey, wants to start throwing touchdowns too. I mean, what is Jimmy G being used for over there? So I would go personally with those three. I wouldn't even consider Winston because he's not even starting. I would go with Heineke and drop Jimmy G.
Yeah, I am so torn. For some reason, I also literally forgot who. Oh, they're playing the Packers. That's right. Okay, well, the Packers run actually blows, but my thing is they did ease DeAndre Swift in. I understand that Jamal's coming off of a good game, but I think that we see his involvement decrease. They both could eat this week given their matchup, but again, Superflex makes me lean Heineke. I just don't know if I feel comfortable dropping at Jimmy G I can't say that with confidence is my problem, because I get that Heineke has had success in the past. I don't think they're going to go back to Carson Wentz. Carson Wentz is dead and gone. We're over that story. That chapter is closed. He will be a backup, I believe, for the rest of his career. I'm leaning Williams here, but I also think this might be a Packers get-right game. So Heineke is safer. I just talked myself into it.
Great.
I talked around in circles, and I got to the way I feel.
We eventually got there. That's all that matters.
Yeah, we got there. It didn't matter how. Everyone takes their own journey. All right. At Will_Jinx90 asks, full PPR, pick two, Gabe Davis, Christian Kirk, Romeo Doubs. What are you thinking? Go for it.
I'm going to go with Davis and Doubs.
Okay.
I like Davis for obvious reasons because he's part of the Bills offense. So that's really all that needs to be said about Gabe Davis. And Romeo Doubs, it seems, has come on recently. Last game, he had a really good game for the Packers. And I just really don't trust Trevor Lawrence right now, honestly. I just don't trust how Christian Kirk is playing there. I think it says a lot that they traded for Calvin Ridley. So that's really, does the team even, trust Christian Kirk as much as they need to? So it's really a lot of things going into it. And plus the Packers are playing Detroit, whose pass defense is literally abysmal. And I would trust both of us playing pass defense over what Detroit is bringing right now. So I would go with Davis and Doubs out of those two.
Okay. I'm torn here. And I like to talk through my process because that's what we do. Because it's our show and I can do whatever I want while I answer questions.
That's right.
Okay. Here's my thought process here. Okay.
All right. Go for it.
Davis always has just too high of a ceiling. I don't really care what the Jets have done against fantasy wide receivers. So I think Davis, you cannot, especially where I am going to make the bold assumption that you probably drafted him a little bit higher than you should have. So for what you drafted him at, you have to start Davis. He can blow everyone out of the water with 2 catches. We've seen it before this season. So I get that the Jets have actually been pretty good against wide receivers, but Wilson is also so volatile right now that they might have so much freaking time on offense as far as the Bills go that I'm on Davis. And then this is where I'm torn because the Raiders also suck. The Raiders allow a little bit over 27 points per game on average to wide receivers. Kirk is wide receiver 16 on the year, averaging whatever it is, 13 points probably.
Mm-hmm.
But the Lions defense is really bad. The Raiders
really
defense
bad.
has been bad, but the Lions defense is really bad. The Lions are proving to not be a good team at all if you thought they were to begin with. The Lions are allowing the 6 most points to wide receivers, like 32 something per game. You've seen it with the Lions all season. Like, even when they're scoring a lot, the other team's scoring a lot, and hopefully he'll have the time. I guess this kind of comes down to Aaron Rodgers. I don't know how much longer we're hoping for a get-right game from him. Maybe this is it, a good opportunity to put up a lot of points against a shitty defense. So I think you talked me out of Christian Kirk, and I would lean what you said as well. Christian Kirk, I think, is like probably has a little bit safer of a floor, though, because of the way that Rodgers has been utilizing his wide receivers and just being a baby this entire season. Okay, next question is at Eli. I'm probably going to botch this. Bordenero. What player traded at the deadline has the biggest jump in value or biggest drop off in value? Let's hear it.
So the biggest drop off in value would probably have to be, I think, Jeff Wilson, probably. I think that, he pretty much goes into a situation where he's not going to be the top guy. He's going to share with Raheem Mostert. So he went from being, but it's tough because he wasn't doing anything in San Francisco either with McCaffrey there. So that's there really isn't. Yeah, I'm going to stick with him though, because the other options, Chase Edmonds didn't have a role in Miami, so he can't go lower than not doing anything. So, the answer by default really is Jeff Wilson. Chase Claypool probably got the best because he went from a team with, Pickens and Johnson to being basically the wide receiver one by himself, because I don't think Mooney's going to challenge him for that role. Hockenson goes from the Lions to the Vikings, so that should help him with Kirk. So really, that's the only realistic option is Jeff Wilson for who loses the most value, whatever value that is.
I'm going to get to Christian Kirk after, because I see also a comment in the chat that kind of really correlates back to one of my points. But to Kadarius Toney is one. I'm not going to – his health is what it comes down to. I think he probably gets a little bit of a boost just from the fact that there was obviously stuff going on, I think, in the locker room that was contributing to why he wasn't getting on the field and why you weren't seeing points out of him. So I think a little bit of a boost where now his floor is higher than it was, because his floor was basically non-existent in New York, played 12 games, 420 yards. So Deion Jackson is interesting too, because I think he's the immediate second back there now. I think that he was a must start when Taylor was out, and we see Taylor struggling a little bit with health this year. So definitely gets a boost. I think he's absolutely worth a bench spot. I spent some fab on him also this week. Hockenson is somewhat, and this is maybe a little bit polarizing, it's somewhat of a lateral move in my opinion, but I think there's more room for a higher ceiling with him, because he could easily be the number 2 option with, Jefferson obviously drawing a lot of attention. And we've seen Jefferson actually not being that, in some games, he's almost entirely quiet. So I think that Hockenson now has room for a lot of development there. I think he has, Thielen is taking the regression that we don't like to see. But I think that Hockenson could easily see a little bump in value. As for, and I'll put this question up, or it says, will Calvin Ridley ever play another down in the NFL again, or is this trade LOL Jags? Okay, this trade is still LOL Jags because of the fact that they just gave Christian Kirk a massive fucking bag. They just gave him so much money, and now you're bringing in Calvin Ridley. I actually think Christian Kirk gets a decrease in value from this. I don't believe that if you have Calvin Ridley on your team and he's healthy, again, he's not out. He's not out because he got injured. He's out because he got suspended for betting on a game that he was playing against the Jags. He is out because he was gambling. He's not out because of health reasons. So I actually think Christian Kirk gets a little bit of a decrease here because now he's going to have a little bit more competition.
I agree. I think it's more than a little bit. I think it's a lot of it, actually. I think the Jags gave him all that money to be the wide receiver one. You don't give him that much guaranteed money not to be, and then they realized that he just isn't. That isn't who he is. That isn't who Christian Kirk is. So then they had to audible and trade for Calvin Ridley. And like you said, Calvin Ridley didn't get hurt. He got suspended. And before he got suspended, he basically took Julio Jones' job in Atlanta as a wide receiver 1. So I imagine that he'll do that in Jacksonville as well. I think he obviously plays another down in the NFL again. I don't think it's a lifetime ban. I think that's ridiculous. But I think that it's not really, I mean, it's LL Jackson from the standpoint that they gave money to basically a wide receiver too. But I think it's also helpful to realize when you made a mistake and then turn around and try to rectify it, which is what I think they did. I mean, the cost to acquire Ridley was really, a conditional 4th round pick, I think it was. So that I think it's good for them that they recognize their mistake, but it's bad for Christian Kirk because he obviously was never going to live up to the amount of money they gave him.
Yeah, I mean, they gave him wide receiver. They gave, like you said, they gave a wide receiver 2, wide receiver 1 money. So you're obviously not going to, you were never getting that production out of him. So I don't know that was a weird plan. It also totally skewed how wide receivers started getting paid, and LOL Jags at that. Actually, the next question is about the Jags as well. This one comes from @TVJoe12. Is there such a thing as a curse in football? Because I think the curse of the Bambino has taken over the Jags. Interesting. No, I think that the Jags have just been so poorly ran for so long that now they're in a place where they have so much fixing up to do. And hopefully Trevor Lawrence can be the guy. I think he still is not making that leap of development that I really need him to make sooner than later. They have pieces there. I think they're trending in the right direction. I like Dougie P. I've always liked Dougie P. And now I'm allowed to like him because I used to not like him because I'm a Giants fan. But I like Dougie P. I like the pieces they have there. I actually love the Calvin Ridley move. Evan Ingram is playing well over there. See, Evan Ingram, I say nice things about you. You don't have to tweet me. But what do you think?
I mean, I don't think there's a curse. I think a curse of anything in football is kind of silly, especially with the Jags. The Jags haven't done anything or made a serious franchise-altering error that I remember that could have cursed them to begin with. But I think, like you said, I think Doug Peterson was the correct move for where they were as a franchise. I think Trevor Lawrence really needed that kind of coach after Urban Meyer to, settle him down and teach him how to be a good, NFL QB. And Doug has obviously done that with, previously with Carson Wentz. So I think, going in the direction they're going with, especially with the Ridley trade, and they have pieces now. ETN has proven to be, a great pickup. He's, the running back 1 there. So, with maybe a couple more years of good drafting, they could definitely be up there, especially in the AFC South, which is not that great to begin with. So it really isn't that high, of a ladder to climb to get to, division winning potential.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing that will hold them back is if Trevor Lawrence can't make that leap. That, you see how that burdens a ton of different franchises. So hopefully he's their guy. I'm totally bought in. I know you and I were so high on him going into the season. Even Wilson. I mean, we both thought that they were great value where they were getting drafted. Probably Wilson has just, I'm not even going to get into it. We're not talking Jets on this show today. All right.
No Jets. Okay.
I'm not talking Jets on this show today. All right.
Poor
Last
Jets.
question. I'm done. Some of these teams, it's so funny. I don't remember in the past, being this team season is so done with as much as I feel that way this year. I can name to you 10 teams that their season is so shot. Okay.
It's 25 teams.
I know. I'm trying to be nice so everyone doesn't cry.
Don't try to be nice.
Yeah,
be
it's true.
truthful.
Fair.
It's 25 teams.
Yeah. And it's because half of them are the ones that are still in the NFC because they actually have a hope just because of conference.
It's really the AFC and NFC South because they both have terrible divisions, but someone has to win them. It's their season technically isn't over, but it really is because you're not beating the Eagles, Giants, or Vikings, or the Bills, Chiefs, or Dolphins in either division. Yeah. So, I mean, it's basically those 6 teams.
Right. Totally. All right. Last question. I don't know if I'm these are probably not supposed to spell this out, but I'm going to read it it's spelled out. It's Karen ZD1. I don't think it's supposed to say that, but I just decided it is. So
you just got to say what's on the paper.
I'm just reading what has been submitted to me. So Karen ZD1 asks, Mooney or Jacoby Myers this week since Mike Williams fucked me?
What?
I hope he bought you dinner.
Probably didn't. So I would go I mean, that's horrible choices, to be honest.
I know. I'm sad about it.
Jacoby Myers is facing Indy, who's second in pass defense. So that's a terrible matchup for him. But Darnell Mooney, I'd go Mooney, I guess, because like even if Claypool plays, he might draw some attention away from Mooney. He could get a couple of good passes.
Yeah.
I just can't trust Mac Jones against that good of a pass defense. So it's really like splitting hairs because both are not great options to begin with. But I go, especially with Justin Fields performing better in recent weeks, I go Darnell Mooney with this one.
I cannot believe I'm going to say these words out loud. I will not be clipping this part of the show, but I'm going to say it. Oh my God. I actually trust Justin Fields more than I trust Mac Jones. And I'm so serious right now, which is so disgusting. And I'm like, want to vomit that I just said that. The Patriots are getting lucky. You saw last week, like even when they're winning games, they're getting the ball. It's because Zach Wilson turned the ball over 14 million fucking times. Like it's not because the Patriots or Mac Jones played particularly well. It's because the Jets played particularly bad. Like, and the Patriots defense is keeping them in games most of the time. So it's hit or miss. And, you know, they might try to throw the ball a little bit more given like the run D they're facing. But again, like Stevenson's just been he's been so good, especially these past couple of weeks. I am leaning Mooney here. Miami secondary still is not good. And I think for that reason at home with Fields kind of getting into the groove a little bit, leaning Mooney. They may not differ in a lot of points this week though. And I'm sorry that Mike Williams fucked you.
Yeah. Sorry about that.
I will put this one up. Calvin asks.
There was no way we were taking this question off of the air. There was no way that was happening.
Have the Giants ever had a QB as good as Jalen Hurts? I'll take your questions off the air.
Go ahead, Steph.
In fantasy, they have not. And that's where my loyalty will start and end. I am happy for that. You know what? Happy for the Eagles. Happy for the NFC East. It pains me that the Eagles are so good. And I want to cry and curl up in a ball. But again, you see, like, I'm sure a lot of people have seen that one picture. How do you even have such a perfect pocket? I've never even seen it. I don't remember the last time I've seen O-line play like this. They're so fantastic. And you see what happens when you have every weapon. You have Howie, who's in the NFL Mafia. He's the dude's just dealing right now, accepting that he can't draft a wide receiver worth shit. So he's like, I'll just go get AJ Brown. I just think that the Eagles are in such a good place. I think they actually have ended up playing teams that are like the schedules look soft, but then again, a lot of teams that we thought were going to be good are bad, and a lot of the bad teams are good. So
everyone's schedule is soft. The NFL sucks. Let's stop with that. I hate that. It's not soft. Everyone just sucks. Soft. Everyone sucks.
Yeah, everyone does suck. All right, last question.
No, wait.
Sorry, 1 second, Evan.
Before we get off the Giants, are you mad the Giants didn't trade for a receiver?
No.
Not even with like a 4th round pick or a 5th?
I know, but here's my thing, and I tweeted this yesterday.
I know, that's why I'm asking you, because I disagree.
Because everyone is like getting, like, I keep seeing the funniest things, and I don't want to say someone specifics that people know I'm calling them out, but like, I keep seeing tweets that are like, Joe Shane wouldn't even try and go get Jacoby Myers. Like, Jacoby Myers wasn't fucking up for grabs. Like, what are you getting upset about? Like, it's not up to Joe Shane for who they want to put on the trade block. Like, you can't just call up a team and be like, oh, we want JuJu. Like, that's literally not how the fucking NFL works. Like, what are you getting upset about?
It doesn't work with Madden?
Like, no, it's not Madden. It's not your fantasy league. Like, you can't just offer a trade. Like, Joe Shane, and again, like, you look at what someone offered, I forget, like, the asking price for, like, Jerry Jeudy, for example, is, like, a 2 and something else. I think I saw, like, it was, like, a 2 and a 4 or 2 and a 5.
Something
like
that. Yeah.
No, why would they? I don't know that there's a reason the Giants should do that right now. Like, we also have a lot of problems financially. The Giants are not going to the Super Bowl this year. With or without a wide receiver one, they're not going to the fucking Super Bowl. Like, and also, don't you get your own feelings hurt. Like, yeah, there's a way to be winning games and not be in win now mode. Like, it's okay to accept that. Like, it's not a big deal. We're winning because of coaching because Saquon is back, because Daniel Jones is playing competently. Like, I can't believe people are like crying about like, the Giants didn't go and trade for Chris Olave. Like, because no one's trading Chris Olave. Like, what are you upset about? Like, go get Denzel Mims. They're not trading Denzel Mims, and you're mad at Joe Shane because he didn't offer a fifth for Denzel Mims. No one said Denzel Mims was an option to trade for, you freaks. Like, get over it. Just don't cry. I mean, yes, of course. Would I have liked to see a little bit more depth? Absolutely. But you look at what some of these guys went for, and like a second for Claypool doesn't make this a win now team. Like that. What are you doing? What are you guys upset about? I think Calvin Ridley was the only one that I kind of was a little upset at looking at the value, but like that doesn't help us now regardless. So whatever. At this point, they're going to have to draft another freaking wide receiver, which is so annoying, but it is what it is. Like you
could just go do what the Eagles did and just trade for one.
Yeah. I mean, at least I liked I think Kadarius, there was like decent value. I think probably could have got a little bit more than a 6 at the end there. But at the same time, like you have no proof that guy is ever going to amount to anything. You're basing it off of like his talent, and you can't turn down a top 100 pick in the draft as the New York Giants if you're offered that. Like sometimes people are just a little just delusional, in my opinion. Do you think they should have traded for one? And who? Judy, I would have been up for probably.
Like you said, it really depends on like we as analysts don't know the prices to these things. Everyone's yelling, trade for Brandon Cooks or trade for whoever. But the Texans wanted a second for Brandon Cooks, so he's not worth a second round pick.
And his contract is like $14 billion fucking dollars. Like,
yeah.
And yes, Rondale should grow into that role. I think right now the receivers are also like, I think they're struggling with scheming these receivers to be doing what they should be doing. Like, I think that there is a lot of shitty play calling going with the receivers, but they're also like not really trying to throw the ball to them. And then you have like Richie James and Marcus freaking whatever the hell is like I don't even know half their names. Johnson. Yeah, God. Well, they all drop the balls. And
how do I know what players on your team that you don't?
I do. I just like am trying to ignore that. That's like what my team is at. But again, even last week, Rondale is open he's constantly open. They're not giving the ball to him. So I'm at a loss for words. I don't know what to do.
I see what Cal did there.
That's funny. Yes, I see that one. Okay. That was my spiel on the Giants. I will answer the last question and get out of here because I'm getting hot and bothered in a bad way.
I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry I asked that question.
No, it's okay.
I apologize.
I mean, who would they have gotten though, Dan?
If Shona had called about Ridley and they said he was available, I would have made that trade.
Absolutely.
I would have made the Ridley trade. None of us knew he was because that came out of left field. But if someone like that, who, like you said, it wasn't going to help you this year, but next year would definitely be the move that I would have made as the Giants.
And if you are a Giants fan, because no non-Giants fan is going to go watch, but just go watch Joe Shane's presser because I think that there is a lot in there that you will like. He's very, very, very forward thinking on this team, and that they're going to get to a place where the Giants are approaching being a very successful team, in my opinion. Like they are a few fundamental pieces away, and I kind of like the idea of building through the draft. So it is what it is. I'm not upset about it. I'm upset because we didn't address it earlier. I'm not upset that we didn't address it before the trade deadline. Like there definitely was times, but what are you going to do? So last question, Evan asks, would you trade JuJu for Deonta Foreman? His running backs are Etienne, Connor, Najee, and Michael Carter. Wide receivers are A.J. Brown, Olave, DJ Moore. Oh, man. I don't know. Yeah, I think I would.
Has there been a bigger disappointment in fantasy than Najee Harris?
Just please.
Oh, my God.
Now, first we got to talk about my fucking Giants. Now we have to talk about Najee Harris. Yeah, Najee Harris is I'm so annoyed. I'm just annoyed.
You're just, in general, annoyed as a
pissed off.
As a state of being, you're just annoyed.
But who's I just want someone to blame. I refuse to believe that Najee is just a shitty talent. Like I'm not ready to accept that.
I don't think he's a shitty talent. He just.
Have you seen Twitter?
Well, I try to not as often. But it's just bad. It is just I don't know what happened to him. I mean, like he's running back.
The O-line sucks. The Steelers suck.
Yeah,
quarterbacks suck.
Yeah, but their O-line sucks. But you can scheme passes.
But he's getting no yards. It's really sad.
Foreman, on the other hand, is just destroying. Like CMC, who is what Foreman is doing in Carolina. So for the answer to this question, I would definitely trade JuJu for Foreman because JuJu, even though he's on the Chiefs and everyone that is on the Chiefs is, the best thing that ever happened in fantasy. With trading for Kadarius Toney, even week to week, we don't know who's going to be the wide receiver one for the Chiefs. So he's very inconsistent. Foreman seems to have the job on lockdown, even when Chuba Hubbard comes back. James Conner is hurt. Najee is bleh, and Michael Carter is okay. AJ
Michael Carter might end up being okay. Also.
Yeah, he is. He's okay.
I think he's going to be okay. So.
Yeah. But with Brown, Olave, and Moore, you're not starting JuJu anyway with those three guys. You never start JuJu over any of those three. So I definitely shore up the running back depth and trade for Foreman.
And Moore is having a really pretty, we're actually seeing the old Moore a little bit. So I don't want to jinx it. We're not going to talk about it because I don't want to, but you're okay with those receivers. Okay, I lied. Yeah. One more. And then that's it. Okay.
All right.
Would you accept a trade of Tyreek Hill for Zeke, some guy in the second? The some guy really matters.
The some guy probably not. The some guy has to be at least a wide receiver.
Some guy a wide receiver?
Has to be a top receiver. At least a top five. Top five at least.
Top five.
If not,
I don't want Zeke though. Blech. No.
If not, then even with the top receiver, probably not. To be honest. I think that
actually no.
If it was like an Allen Lazard as a some guy, then definitely not. I think that's a really stupid trade. But if it's maybe like Devontae Adams, maybe.
Calvin said Olave. No, fuck Devontae Adams. Unless the Packers are reversing the trade, I'm done. Unless they reverse the trade, I'm done.
But it would have to be like a top five receiver for it to, because seconds don't matter. In drafts, and Zeke is proven to be washed. Pollard lapped him so hard he didn't even see him coming. Pollard should start for the rest of the year. If Zeke starts, the Dallas Cowboys are just stupid. But Hill's the wide receiver one in fantasy right now. So you have to give at least a Diggs or a Waddle or like an AJ Brown type for that trade to even come close to making any kind of sense.
I hate it. Oh God. I don't know. I hate this fantasy year. I'm not happy. Okay, there is one more question. Let's just do one more. And then I'm actually done. All right. But this is a fun question, so I don't want to be done. Okay, Thomas has pick 2, G Wilson, A Pierce, D London are more. Ready, set, go.
Pierce, Wilson.
Pierce, Wilson. Agreeing with you.
Moore doesn't matter in Arizona, and London doesn't get the ball thrown to him because Atlanta has given up on the passing game.
Okay, but what if he does get the ball thrown to him?
Well, he won't. So that scenario doesn't exist in this universe. Maybe it's some alternate universe, but no, not in this one. Pierce.
In an alternate universe, I would pick London and Wilson.
Yeah, but this is not that universe. And Pierce, has the running back one, and even though they're facing the Eagles can be run on sometimes. Especially with Jordan Davis being hurt. Mm-hmm. So it's definitely Wilson and Pierce for me. I don't have any trust in London or Moore whatsoever.
Oh, God. All right, whatever. So much logic. All right, that's it. That wraps it up.
I'm sorry for logic to our mailbag.
So much damn logic.
I'm sorry I don't get hot and bothered like you do and just going to steal for 15 minutes.
I'm bothered in a bad way, not a good way. All right, we'll be back with another episode this week. Not sure what it's going to be about, but we will find out when the episode approaches. Maybe we'll do another mailbag because this is fun. If you did tune in, hit subscribe and like, and download the Champions Round app. If you use code DailyDozen, you'll get a $12 deposit and a deposit bonus there. And we're giving away a signed Zach Wilson mini helmet if you are at the top of the leaderboard at the end of November. I'm Steffi Smalls. This is my co-host, Eagle Dan FF, with a fresh haircut. We will catch you guys next time.
Don't take trouble for